Hey everyone, the tank has now been set up for almost 2 days. The water cleared up very nicely. And these guys that I wild caught, these white suckerfish, I literally caught those in a local river. They come up to the glass, they're friendly. You drop a few pieces of food in there, they're eating. They adjusted very nicely. Those guys do get pretty big. They may end up having to get thrown out in the pond if they outgrow the tank. But I'm sure I could keep them at least a couple years. Don't know where the other one is, but the tadpole is still doing good. There's 3 occupants in here right now. And this heater in here is adequate. That's been running for a while, keeping the tank at about 76 degrees. I think that's about 23 Celsius. That big heater is going to be removed and thrown in the garbage. It works, but the, thermostat malfunctioned. It won't shut off. And that right there is a lesson to everyone why you don't want to put a oversized heater. A big heater seems like a good idea for a tank. People will oftentimes buy a heater that's bigger than the tank requires. But you want a heater that is just right, because this one right here is rated for 20 to 40 gallons. It's a 55-gallon tank, but look at how much water's in it. It's half of it. That's rated properly. That other one there is rated for about a 70-gallon tank. And because the thermostat's not working, I came down here the other day, water temperature was 84. I believe it would have kept climbing and climbing until it cooked everyone inside the tank. But right here, I might even turn the heater that's in there down more, because these suckerfish right here, that's about the hottest water they would want. I might turn it down a little bit, but I still want that frog to develop quickly. Now, a tadpole, for a bullfrog, you could have that water in there and be very chilly. It would survive like a fish. It would just stunt how fast it's growing. If you made this warm like bath water, it would turn into a frog very quickly. If they don't have enough warmth, they'll just go through another winter as a tadpole, basically like a fish. Now, bullfrogs typically will lay their eggs later in the year. The tadpole has to go through 1 or even 2 winters. It's a big frog. Some frogs just 1 winter, or things like wood frogs, they only have to go through a couple months. It goes from egg to tadpole to frog in a couple of months. They typically don't go through the winter as a tadpole. But that guy got friendly. It's a wild-caught suckerfish I got out of the river. But today we went to the pet store. We're going to add some more occupants to this now. So here in bag 1, this is dwarf lily pads. They are teeny lily pads that hopefully will thrive and take over the surface of the tank. I'm going to remove that power head and move it somewhere else, because that little bit of flow there, I want the surface of that part right there to be basically stagnant. I want that to be lily pad area. So I'm going to move the power head somewhere else so there's still currents. Suckerfish like that, because they came from a river, want somewhere in there that's got a little bit of current. I also got today, this is a dwarf crayfish. It's small enough that it won't be able to hurt the other occupants of the tank, but it is welcome if it wants to eat some snails. If it wants to kill a snail and eat it, so be it. Snails reproduce pretty quickly. And I got a pleco. I love these guys. I raised some that were teeny, and they got up to about 18 inches until a power outage when I wasn't home, unfortunately, like 6 years ago. They were fun. Those are the ones from those viral videos where I didn't have them living in the tank. I just use UV lights, let the thing purposely get as green as possible. I would pick them up out of another tank, put them in there, and they immediately got to work. I would time-lapse it. It would go from green to crystal clean glass within an hour. Those videos were awesome. I used to love time-lapsing them, doing LG cleanup, and it was a buffet for them. Then I would pick them up, put them back in their tank, and let it green up again. And I got a bunch of feeder goldfish. So these will get big. These are regular goldfish like you would put in a fishbowl. They're just small. Don't buy regular goldfish. Get some feeders. It's the same exact thing. Unfortunately, they didn't have large feeders. These are considered medium. But they'll get big, and if the crayfish wants to kill one and eat it, so be it. That's okay with me. Now, those aren't intentionally the crayfish's food. In fact, feeder goldfish, you gotta watch what you're feeding it to. They do contain a toxin that probably shouldn't even be used for feeders. Unfortunately, the store didn't have, like, I used to buy Toughies. It's pink, and some of them are gray fish. I would love to add a few of them, but I don't want to overload it, so I'm not going crazy. Just these occupants for now. We're going to see how it works out. Maybe in the future, I'm going to wild catch a few ram's horn snails. That'd be kind of cool to put in there, or apple snails, which are invasive, or some people call them mystery snails. They get pretty big. They get about 2-inch diameter. They're very big snails, and they're invasive. But they make awesome pets. I used to have those snails, and then suddenly one day, I thought it was algae. There was hundreds of black specks on the glass. It was like as small as a grain of salt. There were baby snails everywhere, and they quickly got to the size of marbles. That was cool. They became super invasive in the tank. But I'm hoping having this guy here, it would eat a bunch of the baby snails. But that's as big as he gets. This guy was in the pet store. The lady at the pet store said she won't restock them because they just don't sell. She said she could have ordered me a bigger one, but these ones are good for a community tank because they're small. They can't really pick on anyone else. And this guy in here is armored, so it's definitely not going to pick on that guy. Also, this guy's nocturnal. When that guy's out there hunting, this guy will be also awake. Same thing with the tadpole. It's mostly nocturnal. Even when it's a frog, mostly nocturnal. Those sucker fish there are mostly nocturnal. The only thing that this guy will be able to prey on is the goldfish when they sleep, potentially. So, let's get to it. We're going to open these bags. So, these 2 bags came from a different pet store than these other 2. So, this I'm not going to bother acclimating, but we're going to acclimate all these. Goldfish, honestly, you probably don't even have to acclimate. That's a very tough fish, but we are going to. What that means is we're going to take their store water, put them in a pail, take half tank water, put it in a pail, and then we're going to go to 3/4 tank water, half-hour increments in between, then we'll throw them in here after a couple hours. Now, nothing that I bought here is extremely sensitive. If you bought super sensitive fish, like angelfish, I would say 90% store water, 10% this, and just do it as a all-day conversion for temperature, too. Those are sensitive fish. But this is going to be, I think, an interesting community tank. I can't wait until the frog grows up and goes up onto the land. And when that frog gets bigger, it will be a threat to the fish if they haven't grown. It won't eat the pleco. It'll grow fast where it won't be able to eat it. One concern is that we'll cross this bridge when we get to it. This crayfish doesn't get any bigger. I don't want the frog to try eating it and choke to death on it. So at one point, the crayfish may have to get moved downstairs, and we might set that up into something different when the time comes. But I don't know. The bullfrog's not going to be big off the bat, but eventually it probably would be able to eat that. But let's get to it. So I'm not acclimating the snails. One of them has already opened up. Look at that. So I just removed the broken heater, removed the bricks, removed the power head. I'm hoping that these little lily pads will take over the surface like they did in the store. But who knows, the goldfish might eat them. But I'm now unloading those. I still got a few more to get out. Look at the little roots, how they hang. That's kind of cool. Look what I got, unexpectedly. I got a free snail. Not just a free snail. I don't know if you can tell in the corner there. There's a snail that's about a 1/2 inch. And in the corner there, I'll show you when it's in the sand. You'll be able to see better. There's like 10 baby snails that came on those plants. And they're a different type. I don't mind. That'll be fun. So we got all the baby lily pads out. Looks like there's 2 different types. See? Got those little lily pads. Even tinier ones. Will they survive? I don't know. Goldfish might eat them all. But in that bag with the plant came a free snail. Oh, it's already out and about. Look at that. I just put it in there a minute ago. Look at that. It's already moving. It's a snail that has a bunch of slime. See it? A bunch of string algae attached to it. But wait until you see this. I said there was like 10 baby snails. I'm probably not even going to be able to find them mixed in with the gravel. But I see one right in the middle of the screen. That is a snail. A tiny snail. But wow, that guy, I threw him in there and it's already on the move. I'm sure we'll see him from time to time. Hopefully the crayfish doesn't immediately get him. And hopefully these guys here are smart enough to close their shell when the crayfish comes around. But let's start the acclimation process. Oh, wait. There's a couple more of the snails. Right there. The focus is horrible. It doesn't like the foggy water. This will be easier when it clears up. But I do think a crayfish is a good way to control snail populations because they do get out of control very fast. So all these creatures right here came from the same store. That's why I went ahead and just mixed them. The store had a central system, which means all the tanks had the same water quality, same temperature, same everything. The lady just didn't want to put these in the same bag because she said, well, I don't want to put them in the same bag with the creature that might kill a few of them. So they're going to acclimate right now. Everyone seems to be doing good. They're now 100% tank water. That's 100% their original water. We got to move that. So I was always taught, don't put the store's water in your aquarium. Also, if you buy any new fish for your community tank, isolate them for about a month to make sure they don't have ick or some sort of parasite. Because this is a brand new tank, we are not isolating anyone. We're just putting everyone in there up front. And if an issue like that occurs, we will treat it. But going forward, once it's an established tank, there will be isolation for anything new coming in here. Except if I find like a snail in the wild. The wild stuff could have parasites, but I don't expect a snail or something to bring in like ick. So that's a tropical creature. So that thing right there wouldn't be able to handle. And that crayfish right there, I'm going to have to do a little research on it to see how tropical that guy might be. I'm not sure if that's a cold species or not. But those goldfish are very, very tough. They also seem very skinny, like they haven't been getting enough food in the pet store. So hopefully they'll start eating fast, producing waste to get the biological cycle going. That pothos plant will be a water cleanser. Once that thing starts rooting, it has no soil. It's just in the water. It will live like that. It'll start dropping roots down, all the way down to the sand. It'll get into crevices. That'll be a cool plant moving forward. Just trying to see the baby snails. They're lost in the gravel. The crayfish hopefully will move around the sand and do some excavations in here. I know my other crayfish have. I had a wild caught crayfish as a kid I found fishing with my dad. This thing was a miniature lobster, literally. This crayfish was bigger than that brick. And we kept it as a pet. It brought home a bunch of babies under its tail. And that thing lived for over 10 years. Longer than any expert on the internet said it would live. It lived 10 years in captivity. Every time we would eat anything, whether it was a steak dinner or any sort of vegetable side, we'd drop a piece in there. It loved everything. It was a bottom feeder. Loved absolutely eating anything. And what was cool about that crayfish is you could reach your hand in there and hand it something. It wasn't scared. It got used to us. It didn't try deliberately pinching us. It was cool. We called it Lemmy Winks. That was a name my dad came up with. I'm not sure if that's from a show or what it might have been. But Lemmy Winks, we have no idea how old it was to already be that big, but we kept it for about 10 years. That thing was really, really cool. That's kind of why I wanted to go out and try finding a wild one. Because they do have the ability of getting pretty big. Like this one here is not going to get that big. This one is going to stay as small as that little white rock. But someday I do have great interest. Maybe in here it's not a good idea with the wood stove, but I don't want water aquariums on the second floor in case there was an accident. I do want to get at some point like a 100-gallon tank and get a grocery store lobster. Now saltwater, big tanks are better because saltwater is a bit more touchy. You have to do more water quality testing and stuff on it all the time. Bigger tanks, the water quality doesn't get thrown off very quickly. If you were gone for a while, it'd probably be okay. But the one thing that I have no experience with is a chilling machine. The lobster literally, it would die at room temperature. You'd have to get a water chilling machine. So you're basically air conditioning the water, refrigerating the tank. That's kind of cool. I do want to get a pet lobster. Apparently they adjust very quickly. I wouldn't say they become friendly, but they will associate you with food and they'll come right up and get all excited. I do want to get a pet lobster at some point. That would be really cool, rescuing a grocery store lobster. I've had that idea for a while. This tank's not big enough, so I don't have the equipment right now, and I don't want to spend the money on it. It'd probably cost a good $500 just for a tank that big. A chiller would cost hundreds more, so we'll wait on that idea maybe for the future. But let's get a cup so we can start. I'll be in and out of the room all day. Every time I come in here, I'll give them a couple cups of the tank water to slowly adjust. I gotta find a cup. This is a brand new setup. I gotta get a nice aquarium cup. This is gonna be the aquarium bucket. I have to buy an adapter so I can use the Python right here. Not exactly the most organized at the moment, so couldn't even find a cup that I was gonna use, so just got this out of the recycling bin. Okay, I just added 4 of these, so that's about 50% or so. Like I said, these are tougher animals compared to certain fish, so we're just gonna start them off at 50, wait an hour, go to 75, wait an hour, put them on in. Alrighty, it's been about a half hour. I drained the water level down to about 1 inch. Now we're going to add a little bit more, just less water so it's easier to catch them. I actually don't have a good aquarium net from sitting in the hot shed. They were so brittle they just broke in my hands, the old plastic nets. So I got to get another one. When I was going through my test kits, which I haven't used in years, by the way, these things don't expire. I did a lot of tests like that years ago. See, I got a copper test. I also got a brand new copper test, well, at the time. Same result, the one from the 80s, which was almost 40 years old at that time still. Still gave me an accurate result. Exactly the same as the modern one. So just because it has an expiration date doesn't mean anything. So for these creatures here, the Placo might like a little bit warm, higher pH, but we're just going to try to keep as good as possible around the 7.0. We're going to do some water tests in here. pH is something we can mess with right now. Ammonia here, in a healthy tank, it should be down to 0 or 0.25. In a newly established tank, it will spike until the bacteria cycle and plants can start doing their job. It's okay, I would say, if we got up to around 1, but if you get to like 2 or any worse, it needs a partial water change. Then you test it the next day. If it's still bad, another partial until it catches up. Except when I was a little kid and didn't know better. When I would like load it with like 50 goldfish at once, it would spike it. You can have 50 goldfish if you have enough bacteria, a big enough filter. It's not good to do that because they will stress themselves out, especially in a tank like this. But if you slowly load them on, the bacteria cycle will catch up. I wouldn't do that now. Except for incidents like that as a little kid when I was learning. I have never had a tank ever spike more than like this. Then it goes back down over the course of the next week or 2. So we'll start doing tests like that tomorrow. Also, we're going to do the nitrate and nitrite test. One of those is good for plants. One of them will hurt the fish. I also randomly found this vial of gallium. So gallium will melt in your hand. If you hold the syringe like this for a good 10 minutes, you will melt that metal. That metal has a melting temperature that's a little warmer than room temperature, but colder than the temperature of your body. Pretty cool. If I was to hold this in my palm, it would turn probably in like 5 minutes to a liquid. Pretty cool. Okay, it's been a half an hour. So why did I crumple my bottle? I guess it's just a habit of crumpling so it fits into a recycling bin. Actually, nope, it wasn't habit. The tank water's warm, it just shrunk because I put the cap back on. It's been a half hour. Let's take another bottle of this. And because I reduced it so much, this is probably going to get them up to about 60-70% tank water. We'll wait another half hour, put another one of those in, and they'll be back in that. They'll be in the tank in about 2 hours or so. So look at this sucker fish. I love how they blend in. This sand actually came from the same river that they came from. Perfect camouflage. There's our tadpole down there. That's not the biggest tadpole I've seen for a bullfrog. Hopefully it's not a green frog. I think it's a bullfrog though. It is still pretty big, but I've seen bigger tadpoles. I'm trying to find where the other sucker fish is. Oh, I see his fin. He's hiding in the back of this cave. So one of the snails is moving, a couple more. Oh, actually, every one's hatch that I can see has opened. That snail is moving a little bit. Those two little snails that were up there, you can see them coming down the side of the brick. I know, my camera does not want to focus when the water's a little bit foggy, but we'll get great footage. This should be crystal clear in like a week. But I like this. I hope the lily pads stay over in the corner where they're stagnant and don't come over near the filter. And I hope nothing eats those. I hope they can establish. Alright, it's been another hour. We just put everyone in. Goldfish are tough. They're already moving around. They don't seem too stressed. The Placo's moving around. Little crayfish, I don't know where it went. No idea where he went. Oh, he's hiding in the cave. It's exactly the cave I thought it would like. Dark, very tight. I felt bad for it in the store. It was in a tank. No sand, it was nothing. Just an empty tank. I believe it had a couple rocks, but you could see the glass. It had nowhere to hide. And these are a nocturnal animal that doesn't like sunlight. It had to deal with that for half a year. It's like a quarter of its life. These things only live to be about 2 or 3. So we'll get an update on that guy. Maybe I should put red bulbs in here. I gotta look up if crayfish can see the color red. I know some animals you can spy on them with red lights at night. So this would be a nice setup for the frog. Alright, we're going to do some water quality tests. In my older videos, as a teenager, people were very triggered by this. Because they didn't understand, even though I would say it multiple times. So, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go, whoa. I'm going to rinse it out in the tank. I'm going to rinse it out. Everyone thought I was rinsing out the chemicals. No, when you are done with this, you dump it down the sink, rinse it out a couple times in the sink. The reason I'm rinsing out in here is to get rid of any residue from the tap, so it's as accurate as possible. I'm not putting chemicals in the tank. But yeah, you're going to dip it a few times. I like these. I don't like the test strips. Test strips are chemical. If you do use the test strips, you're going to take a dip with a cup, and then you put that water down your sink. Don't dip it directly in your tank. You're getting chemicals in there. Even if it's trace amounts, it's not good for your animals. Use a separate cup, dip it in that, wash it in the sink, then wash it off in here again before you reuse it. Just like that. I also, one thing that they did, I don't know why we have glass test tubes like this. Back in the day, they were square plastic test tubes. You could drop them. They didn't break. These things, you drop them, they're gone. I'm glad I gave the little crayfish a chance in my tank instead of getting a bigger one, because it just ran back in there, but it came out and it's, with its little hands going through the sand, it's already eating, and it's only been in here for about 10 minutes. Tough animal. And there's our tadpole. These guys are already eating. They've only been in there for a little over a day. Oop, they found each other. There's my 2 sucker fish, wild caught. The goldfish look malnourished. They're so skinny. I've got to give them a chance to eat. I'll put food in here this evening once they adjust a little bit, but I want to do the water tests first right now. All right, the tests are in. You gotta shake this a couple of times. The ammonia one uses 8 drops of 2 different solutions, and you have to wait a little while for the result. The pH, you can usually tell what it is just dripping it before you even shake it, especially when you're used to it. So everything's fine as of now. The pH level is about, we need to give you a white background. It's about 7-8 is what I would say. So I went ahead and I looked up every single creature in here, if it can survive or tolerate forever pH of 8. I also am going to keep an eye on this very closely over the next couple weeks. Certain types of rocks can raise the pH. So things like that we will keep in mind. The weird rocks we bought at the Home Depot, I don't think they are contributing. I think it might just be my well. Matter of fact, I'm going to let the well water run for a little bit. I want to test that. I want to see what the pH coming out of my tap is, because I haven't done that yet. I would assume it's pretty acidic. Most of our rivers and ponds up north especially are acidic. When I used to test ponds, they'd always be like 5, 8, or 6. But goldfish, the pleco, those snails, the white suckerfish, which are native, the crayfish, I looked up everyone. Everyone can happily tolerate pH of 8, except the bullfrog tadpole. The bullfrog tadpole would prefer to be between 6 and 7.5. It's only slightly out of range. We're going to see if we can adjust this a little bit. As of now, I'd say everything's fine, because it's not at 8 yet. It's at about 7.8, or maybe you could call that 7.6. If it gets to 8, we will try doing a water change. But quickly, I want to go over here and test that water. So the ammonia card, you pull it up. It's not yellow. It's slightly green. I'd say it's between the 0.25 and 0.50. Tolerable. It's actually pretty good. It's only been running a day. It's probably going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, but we will be testing these every single day for the first week. Then we'll start slowing down as far as that. But after about a week, I think it'll have settled down. I want to test the tap water now, so let's just let that run for a little bit. Okay, this will be closely monitored. We just tested the water coming out of the well, and I don't know, you be the judge of this. Let's get better lighting over here. Is it coming out of the well? Yeah, actually, it is coming out of the well at 7.6. So, I don't believe anything in the tank is raising the pH, at least not yet. And if it stays at 7.6, the bullfrog will be fine. That's about the maximum of its happy range. It can't survive 8. That's what I looked up just in case there was something. I do not believe anymore that anything internally is raising it. Like, for example, if you used crushed coral as your gravel or crushed coral as sand, that will sustain a higher pH that a lot of saltwater creatures would like. But look at that. We got the snail going up the glass. That one's peeking out. The other ones haven't budged yet. This one keeps going in like a little circle there. Those little ones are still making their way down the brick. The crayfish is back in that cave. All the goldfish mostly are hanging out together. They're very communal. There's one goldfish by itself, another goldfish by itself, another group hanging out in the shallow water. There we have the suckerfish. Tadpole hasn't moved, but it's nocturnal. I don't expect it to move. And I'm assuming the other suckerfish is in there with the crayfish. So we'll see how everyone does. I'll make another video when I finally feed them, but I want them to sit in here throughout the day. And we're going to run the UV light. I have it on 12 hours a day. It's a dark room. We keep the windows shut in here. So they're not going to know when it's actually daylight. So I put it just on the hours I'm typically up. So this is going to turn on at 11 in the morning and stay on until 11 at night, because I'm usually up later at night, and that's when I'd be mostly in here. So they get 12 hours of daylight. Hopefully that makes a lot of algae. Ooh, look, 2 different types of suckerfish next to each other. Something else that would be cool to have as a pet, but they get big fast and it would literally kill and eat just about everyone in here. I want to get another bullhead catfish. I had one of those as a pet when I was little, and it was a great pet. You could feed it everything, hand feed it, you could handle it. You could put your hand in there and just pet it. It didn't care. It became very friendly. Even laid eggs. We had like 50 babies, which eventually we had to release because they started becoming fin nippers. So when I used to live in the city, our water was perfect. It was 7.0. That's exactly neutral. Here it's a bit more alkaline, which that's not a problem for people. It's not a problem for the animals. It's not super high. I've just never encountered water that was so high anywhere I've lived. So usually you come into a problem where I don't know, maybe this tank will have the same problem. The water will likely become more acidic as it sits here, as the plant matter decays and other factors like that. So usually every time I had aquariums as a kid, I had like 12 of them at one point, just racks of littler tanks mostly and a few big ones. So the biggest problem was the pH would slowly drop over time, which is super easy to fix. You would just put like a teaspoon of baking soda in there. Baking soda does contain salt, but a little bit of salt in an aquarium is actually good. It helps wounds. It also kills bad bacteria. Yeah, it helps with injuries of fish. It's good to have a slight tint of salt in a freshwater tank. At least that's what I was always taught. It won't harm them. Just use a teeny bit of baking soda. It just takes a teeny little bit. You don't have to buy the expensive pH up at the store. But pH down, I've never had to buy it. I'm not exactly sure what you would put in here to make it more acidic that you just randomly have in the house, but ooh, the Placo, everything in here seemed to have adjusted very nicely. I can't wait until the plants start growing in and creating more hiding spots. Pothos will thrive above the water, and the leaves will also thrive underwater. It will grow leaves underwater. It can live 100% aquatic, that plant. It's very versatile. It can live in a pot very drought tolerantly. I've gone before over a month. It might shrivel up and it might conserve energy by dropping some of its leaves, but I've literally let that stuff get to the point I thought it was dead, didn't water it for months. Then it perked right back up, a couple days. It's also lived underwater in many of my old tanks. It has quite the range it can survive. It can survive almost down to the freezing point. It can survive over 100 degrees. It's very versatile where it will live. But we have a nice community tank now. I'll give updates when we do the feeding. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. I also, if you've seen that, I bought that because my bulb burned out in my snake cage upstairs. That snake I've had since 2008. It's getting pretty old now. Unfortunately, these days you can't go into the hardware store and buy incandescent bulbs. Really sucks. In the name of saving energy. Used to be able to buy 100-watt bulbs, 2 of them for $1 at the dollar store. Now you can't buy them anywhere. No hardware stores sell them. You can still get them fairly cheap, old stock, like on eBay. But mostly, if it's a small cage, just buy oven bulbs. LED wouldn't be able to survive inside of an oven, so they do still sell those. They're usually about 40 watts. They're not suitable for larger tanks. That's unfortunate, because now they literally make you buy them at a reptile store at a super inflated price for no reason. It's really sad. We used to use those on all the tanks. Looking back, I wish I could go back in time 10 years and buy out the store, have a whole ton of them. They're so hard to find now, but sometimes I find them at garage sales.